Hello. Israel Adesanya, the great Israel Adesanya, the former UFC middleweight champion of the world. Now, he's a very, very high-level athlete, and of course he has his own strength and conditioning coach. And pretty recently he's just put out a video talking about what he really gets up to with his strength and conditioning coach. And I thought we're going to dive in and have a little look.
The conditioning coach to look like that. Never trust the skinny chef or the fat ones.
Always trust a fat chef because they make the tasty food.
Israel Beckley from Base Benefit. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. So what we try to do is to build a complete athlete. It doesn't matter what sport it is. We just have to make sure you can operate properly without you getting hurt and you being able to operate at the highest level of competition, really.
So yeah, what he's saying there is kind of really the two main roles of a strength and conditioning coach. Those being, of course, we need to physiologically prepare the athlete for the physical demands of their sport, whether it's get stronger, more powerful, aerobic and anaerobic conditioning. But there's also another very important role, that is trying to reduce the chances of injury, or one term I really like, robustness. You got to remember, with most sports, it's the skills practice that makes them the better athlete. So making sure they're able to turn up to that skill practice to get better as an athlete in that sport, we need to make sure that we're trying to mitigate injury where we can.
Israel Beckley from Base Benefit. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. We came up with the name because I was trying to figure something out that tells people that we build all the way from the base. You know, it takes a few months to actually build your base and then build on top of the base. When you have a solid base, it's easy for any coach to just build on top of that without being scared that the structure is going to come down, you know? So what we try to do at Base Benefit is to...
So yeah, he's writing what he says here. Ideally, I mean, for most guys, we want to try and build a base. For a lot of athletes, they've never been inside a gym before. So you see a lot of coaches making the mistake of jumping straight to the fancy sports-specific exercises before they can even squat or deadlift or bench press, before they can even land, before they can even really move properly as an athlete. Ideally, we want to build a decent base of strength, movement proficiency, and all-round general physical preparedness so that they're a bit more tolerant to lifting weights. And they can move around with pretty good technique. Because like we previously said, we want to mitigate injury.
So what we're doing here, if you watch the way he goes, we try to make him stay on his toes. And then you see the third set of plates, they're a little bit higher. So the main aim of that is when he hits the floor, he needs to stay on the ball of his feet and just to fire the soleus and fire his tendons. So his tendons need to stay nice and tight, so he just pops off the floor.
Nice, so some variations of some pogo jumps here. So he's writing what he says here. We really, with these exercises, we want to try and stay on the toes. And really the idea behind this is to try and improve some tendon stiffness in the ankle. These exercises, ankle pogos, are highly effective at increasing tendon stiffness in the ankle. Now this tendon stiffness plays a crucial part into something we call ground reaction forces. So this refers to the energy we exert into the ground being returned back through our body. So by improving tendon stiffness, we really have two main benefits. First one being it allows for much quicker and more powerful transmissions from the floor up through the ankle to other parts of the body, thereby increasing our rate of force development. Secondly, stiffer tendons are inherently more resilient, again reducing the likelihood of an injury taking place in the ankle, especially when the ankle is being subjected to much higher levels of forces. So in summary, ankle pogos, big thumbs up. Now technique-wise of the pogos with Israel Adesanya, I'd maybe change a couple of things. Really what we want to try and get with the pogo to really enhance that tendon stiffness. If you imagine this hand's the floor and this hand's the foot, as we strike the ground, I want to be trying to pull my toes back up, strike the ground again. If I just keep my foot in this position the entire time, I'm not going to be quite as stiff. I'm most likely going to be a bit more compliant as I hit the ground, meaning I'm not going to get the snap off the floor, which is kind of what we want out of the exercise.
That is one of the things that I've seen to lack a little bit in a lot of fighters. It's just when they hit the floor, they just spend too much time on the floor. So we just try to, you know, work on that pop. We're just trying to look for that reactive part of the plyometrics. It's not very high right now because, you know, we're still far out of camp.
Getting some more variations of more of the short stretch shortening cycle plyometrics.
All right, so what we're doing here is we're just trying to, keep him strong and a long lever. Just get him to be under tension on that very, very, like the longest part of his lever, and then get him to power back up.
So seem to be doing some kind of deficit kettlebell Romanian deadlift. He talks about he's really trying to emphasize the tension in the posterior chain. The deficit, all this is doing, it's increasing the range of motion, meaning the eccentric stretch will be prolonged, allowing for more mechanical tension, basically more time with the eccentric contraction. Generally, if we're trying to develop strength or muscle, this is a pretty good idea. We want to spend more time in these eccentric positions, just because they've been shown to be a little bit more hypertrophic in nature.
So that's the same thing we're doing here as well. It's just a long lever at a deficit lunge to just try to get him to shoot that hip up sooner. It's just one of the things, again, that I've seen that is hard for me to explain to fighters to do. It's like driving your hip up and generating the force from your hip and your glutes rather than just their quads. A lot of them tend to just extend their knees first before the hip starts to kick in. And as soon as you do that, the muscle is lengthened, there's less force coming out of it. So you want to stay compact until you get to that, to that top.
So here he's doing something with deficit lunge. Again, he's using words like snap up and get up quick and things like that, and suggesting that they're trying to develop some speed and power here. The first lot he done with the kettlebells, in my opinion, looked quite slow. I mean, there's a ton of technology you can use to measure the speed of things if you were to go down the route of velocity-based training stuff. But just from watching, it did look a bit on the slower side, suggesting, I don't know if it's really creating the stimulus that he's trying to achieve. Now there's tons of exercises you can do to try and improve the extension of the hips, and if you're really trying to develop speed and power, jump variations, counter movement jumps, broad jumps, single leg hops, things like that are also very effective at doing those things. Those things are probably a bit more orientated towards the speed, just because you will be moving much faster, but nevertheless they're also very, very good exercises.
I've got 4 days with him now, 2 days of actual weights and then the other day of aerobic and then anaerobic. So what we're doing here is the accessory day where we do unilateral stuff and a lot of the accessories. We've done the whole squats, bench and all that, proper strength building on it.
He talks about here that this day that we're watching is really the third day in Israel Adesanya's strength and conditioning routine. By the sounds of things, he does all of his heavy compound lifts on the first few days. The third day is just orientated around more accessory exercises, which could explain maybe some of the exercise selection. Perhaps this day is maybe a little bit more accustomed to more of the robustness. Hence why he's trying to put Israel Adesanya in very long ranges, the deficit RDL and the deficit lunge. He's trying to expose his tissues and his joints to great ranges with some load. So he's trying to build some robustness there.
So same thing here, unilateral as well, but you see this one is a lot of anti-rotation because naturally your body wants to rotate to pull that kettlebell up, but you have to just try use your core and just transfer the weight just through your core rather
than upper body superset by looks of things. Dumbbell rotational press into a bent over row. So unilateral bench press, of course, a good exercise for a little bit of strength and muscle building, but also just general shoulder health, shoulder stability. He then talks about the dumbbell bent over row, explaining that because it's unilateral, to avoid rotation as he moves the dumbbells, thus making the exercise anti-rotational, thus making the goal of the exercise based around anti-rotational strength. So not allowing his midsection or shoulders to rotate as he pulls the dumbbell in is going to make his torso muscles work quite hard to maintain a neutral spine position.
2, 1. Relax.
With the pull-ups, it's very important. When you're in clinch, you're pulling down. The lats need to be strong. So that's what we're doing here.
Okay, so some weighted eccentric pull-ups or chin-ups. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not a massive fan of the technique here. The exercise is fine, the exercise is a good exercise. But if he's been emphasizing all these long ranges throughout the rest of the session, he's kind of cutting the exercise short here. He's only really allowing Israel to get down around halfway before Israel just touches the floor and he gets back up and resets. If we really want to build robustness entirely, it's a good idea to go to the end ranges of the stretch. So coming down all the way into a big stretch, not only is this going to develop the eccentric strength of the lat muscles in the back, but also of the biceps and all of the connective tissues in the elbow. Again, things that are quite important for the robustness when we're wrestling and grappling and clinching and holding on.
So again, what we're doing here is just trying to generate force, coming from the core. Just a lot of snap from the core there.
So some kind of med ball overhead throw, like a supine position. He talks about trying to generate a lot of force from the core. But what he's not talking about is actually the snap down of the arm. So yes, he is crunching over to launch the ball, which does make that sit-up action a bit more ballistic in nature. But he's also reaching above his head, which is elongating the lat muscle. And then as he crunches over and snaps the arm down, he's then contracting the lat muscle very quickly, very rapidly, and throwing the ball with a ton of force.
High velocity.
Looks like some rotational strength stuff, where he's just passing a heavy med ball around to the side. Again, having to get all of these muscles twisting and rotating under load. Of course, when we punch and when we kick, our torso creates a lot of rotational forces. So we want to try and develop the strength qualities in those muscles to assist with more rotational force. Then, generally, once you've built that strength, then move into more ballistic and speed-like exercises. Things like wood chops or med ball throws, where you rotate through the trunk and move something super quick. Izzy being Izzy.
One, good.
So this is just trying to get the posterior chain to snap up. Same thing. There's, back extensions, which is when your back is actually...
Okay, so he's on the GHR, the glute ham raise. Again, I don't really know how this session's structured, but he's doing some more sort of strength / accessory work, because he kind of done the ballistic med ball throw like halfway through session, where ideally you'd probably do those more ballistic, powerful stuff at the start, where you're going to feel the most fresh.
I want him to generate all the force just from the glutes. Again,
So the glute ham raise is a good exercise, very good exercise for developing the glutes and hamstring muscles. Talks about, again, trying to get the posterior chain to snap up. I think he's trying to get this to be done quickly. So I don't know if this accessory day that he's doing, if everything's meant to be done very quickly and powerfully. But yeah, generally with this exercise, quite a good one to elongate the hamstring and the glute muscle, get into another very deep range, and then have to forcefully contract those muscles to pull yourself back up. So like I said, we don't really have any context in what stage he is in fight camp or really how the session was structured. But in general, some alright stuff. It'll be interesting to see what he does on the other days as well, on the days that he does his strength lifts and perhaps more of his other plyometrics and speed exercises. But yeah, there's some pretty good things there. So yeah, super excited for this guy to return to the UFC. He's been off for a little while now, so I wonder if he's been working hard in the weight room to really develop some strength. Guess we will see in his return. So yeah, let us know what you think of this video, guys. If you like it, give a thumbs up, comment on what you think if you want to see more, and hopefully some more athletes put out some more content like this and we can do some more reaction videos. So yeah.